Hey everyone, how's it going? We just got the closing bell for Wednesday, June 26th. Today, we were not expecting a lot of motion, a lot of movement inside of the markets. We were really just waiting for a catalyst. That catalyst may possibly be the Micron earnings that are happening anytime now after the market should be within the next 10 to uh, 30 minutes. We can take a quick look at that and see when that is exactly. Let's go over here to Micron, and we're expecting it to release any moment now, actually, any moment now. So we can see that in the last few minutes here, MU has got a little bit of a bid. There's a lot of orders back and forth today on it going up and it going down. On net, it seems like there is a little bit more bullish orders in Micron. So we don't have a clear direction though, because normally we would have a large bet one way or another, and that would indicate some sort of insider information. At the end of the day, we did see a lot of orders for Taiwan Semiconductor and Nvidia actually be to be bullish. So there was over 1.5 million, 2.5 million last minute here in Nvidia orders to for Nvidia to go up, but it wasn't immediate. It was like three weeks to expiration. So looks like we did get a little bit of a reaction here. Looks like maybe Micron has just announced very poor earnings, so somewhat unexpected. But let's wait and see how that develops. We'll take a look at that in another few minutes. Looks like at everything else that happened in the markets today, and then we'll go back and see what that reaction is to those earnings. And then if we're on long enough, we may even catch the investor call. So today we were expecting it to be quiet. We were expecting it to really move a whole bunch. I can see that I redrew the lines that we had lost from this morning. I don't know that I redrew the thin purple line exactly where and whatnot, but again, everything is a region, and this is a little bit more of an art than a science. So it doesn't matter that we have exact levels. What matters is, in general, how did we move? Well, we chopped around, and then we chopped around a slightly higher level. And then in the last half hour or so, our volume picked up and then surged into the close until we closed pretty much right at this purple line right here. Same thing with the NASDAQ. Choppy, a lot of choppy, but much more volatile movement in the small cap stocks. And then the Dow Jones was a little bit of the opposite. It went upwards quite a bit, and then it chopped sideways. So not a lot of movement. We weren't expecting a lot of movement. We didn't get a lot of movement except towards the end right here. Even with all this volume though, that's actually very muted. Normally this volume here will far dwarf any volume spike we have throughout the day, and even the opening bell. And so you can see that this volume did not do that much. If we look at the volume here, we're only at 25 million out of an average of 54 million. We'll maybe add another 10 million or so after the dark pool stuff is tabulated. So that would be 35 million, and it's just low. Yesterday's was 38 million after everything was said and done. And this volume is just so low. As long as we see low volume, then we know that there's not heavy institutional participation, which means that they're just doing what they have to do. They're not making any directional trades. They're not making any investments in one direction or the other. What I mean by that is, when you're an institution, you get money inflows and outflows, unless you're a closed-ended fund. Most funds are open-ended, meaning that people can put in more money at any point in time, and they can take out money at any point in time. And so you have cash inflows and outflows, and you don't know what those are during the day. You only know what those are after they've been calculated overnight. If those outflows or inflows came in during the night or after market hours. And sometimes during the day, you will actually get some depending on your fund. Most funds will only allow aftermarket. So a lot of activity in the morning is, oh, I need to get that cash movement, or I need to make room for cash because I had net withdrawals. And then at the end of the day, you go in and you try to invest any new cash that you have. So what we're seeing here is that there's not been a lot of activity at the beginning of the day or even at the end of the day. So that volume there is just the normal
Just
stuff that I
something.
have to do in order to get in and out or make the cash available or to get my cash allocated. So I'm not putting my cash to work. If I was putting my cash to work programmatically, then we would see a lot more volume over here and we would see much better directionality. So the S&P basically just chopped sideways. We got 4 days in a row now with very similar bars and similar ranges. The QQQ, and you'll see we did make a higher.
We don't see your screen.
Oh,
We can't see your screen.
okay. Have you seen my screen the whole time or no?
Almost.
Okay. So, oh, okay. Hopefully you just lost it for a little bit. Um, but over here we can see that. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So you can see that today's range was much smaller than the previous 2 days. Our low is within the previous day range, and our high is finally above the range of the last 2 days. But it's not that much higher, right? It's just a tiny, tiny bit. And so, yes, can I say this? This is a confirmation of a bounce off of the EMA 8, sort of. I guess technically that low, let's see, that low is 478.13 and the EMA 8 is at 478.15. So that low is technically still touching that EMA 8. That's a little nitpicky, but basically what we're saying is this is a really borderline case. I would be a lot more comfortable if that low wasn't there. So if we completely erase this shadow, I'd be more comfortable. And I'd be more comfortable if we had a larger bar and we close more significantly above this high right here. But I guess we'll take it as a very weak signal that yes, we did in fact kind of bounce off of that EMA 8 and are headed higher. Again, Micron could completely change that story. GDP can completely change that story. Personal income and expenditures could completely change that story. So it's just a very weak, yes, we did kind of do it in the QQQ today. We certainly did not do it in the SPY, where we did go above yesterday's high, but not that previous day's. And we are still certainly spanning that EMA 8 right there. And if I look at my Dow Jones, well, Dow Jones was never in question. I need to look at XLK and SMH. So let's look at XLK. XLK did not close higher. We did make a higher high than the previous 2 days, but we certainly didn't close there. We're closing right at that EMA 8. And then if I look at my SMH, but did not make it above the EMA 8, did not close above yesterday's high, and our high is probably matching that high. So no conviction here, no conviction whatsoever. We just call that sideways movement. And so do I give it to the QQQ that it is kind of made it a little bit higher? At this point, I would say no. XLK didn't do it. SMH didn't do it. Let's check out NVIDIA. NVIDIA, sort of the same story. Oh, it's like borderline. It's so borderline. We're really going to want to see those Micron and then GDP in the morning. So GDP is happening at 5:30 Pacific time. So we'll have that plenty of time for our pre-market analysis. And that will tell us a big story. So glad that we kept our hedge on because we really don't know what's going to happen here. And at least the initial reaction to Micron after hours was that downward movement. And then that downward movement could get pretty scary if it bleeds off into the rest of SMH. So let's take a look at that first. Yeah. Oh, that's getting volatile, right? So a huge bar down, recovery, and then heading back down. We're probably going to wait for, we have, okay, so we spanned their guidance, spanned the expectation. So basically, it says we beat estimates, but we really, oh, they're talking about the guidance here. Okay. So we posted 6.81 billion versus 6.68 billion estimates. So we did beat estimates. Our guidance is a range that spans on the low end below what we or consensus was, and on the high range above the consensus, and we're taking that as bad news, which is not necessarily the pattern that we've seen for other earnings like NVIDIA. Let's see how, if we can see if that's affecting NVIDIA. Okay, yeah, it's definitely affecting NVIDIA. And I don't know that we'll be able to see this for SMH. Oh yeah, we can. So it's definitely affecting SMH as well. So looks like we're challenging these the lows of the day. And if we look at our SMH, we challenge our lows of the day, that brings us right back to the EMA 20. This morning, what we were saying is that if it does really well, then we would probably pull us above the EMA 8. If Micron does poorly because we had that positive bias going in, then we'd probably retest that EMA 20. So far, we're spot on in that. Do we have the potential to break the EMA 20? Yeah, it's not super likely, but there is the potential. So we would see tomorrow morning what else developed. But if we get a not so great GDP on top of that, or if the bond market suddenly starts to believe that we don't have as much potential for a rate cut, then we could slip below that EMA 20. So Micron earnings so far is bringing us to the EMA 20, and then GDP and interest rate expectations will have the potential to bring us below the EMA 20 or undo some of what Micron is doing to us so far. So for now, it's looking very, very good that we have that QQQ hedge on still, and we'll probably keep it on at least for another day, just until this uncertainty passes us by. Let's take a look at our VIX. VIX came down today, actually came down quite a bit, given that the SPY basically did nothing. I mean, it went up, but it basically did nothing this past 4 days. So if I look at this, VIX past 4 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're definitely lower than where we were 4 days ago on the VIX. So is that rational? I don't know. I would say that pretty soon here a VIX hedge might be appropriate. So buying some calls in VIX. Not quite ready to do it yet, but maybe early next week, maybe a VIX hedge will be a good idea. Take a look at what the rest of the market did. So rest of sectors. So we already looked at XLK. Excuse me. We already looked at XLK and SMH. Take a look at XLC. XLC flat. It looks like it's up, but what we see here is that the high is just barely above the previous high. The low is definitely above the previous low. The close is 1 penny above yesterday's close. So it went sideways. It didn't really do much. So a lot, just bunch of sideways movement all day, or through all these sectors that we've looked at so far. And let's take a look at our stock fetcher. 90-day highs, 38. 90-day lows, 93. Okay, so I believe this morning this was like 100 and 103, and this was like 68, something like that. Let's go backwards one day. 103, and then 69. Okay, so I was pretty close. This isn't a significantly different picture. We do have fewer, like half the amount of 90-day highs that we did earlier this morning. It is because the numbers on both ends are low. I don't want to read too much into it, but there is starting to be a little bit of a disparity between these two. So more lows than highs today overall in the markets. Well, let's take a look at my sector scan and just see where money moved around. Oh, now that is really interesting. Okay, let's go back to SPY. Flat, up 0.12%. Let's take a look at the RSP, down 0.38%, below the MA50. But I don't want to read too much into that because all of our moving averages are consolidated right here and we're just chopping in this range. But it is below the MA50 and it is down a good bit more than the regular SPY. QQQ up 0.21% and QQEW down 0.43%. So there is some disparity here. So the weighting, what did NVIDIA do? Did it go up? Just barely went up. Okay, so it looks like the FANG weighting is still playing a pretty big role, even though we're really just chopping sideways. And let's see, these numbers aren't quite matching up, which is why I was taking a more careful look. Okay, but it's better. But still, SPY up 0.01%, should be 0.1%. All right, so maybe we don't have completely updated numbers quite yet, but at least this is looking better than what we saw before. When I was looking earlier, this said 0.01% and everything else was below it. So that didn't seem correct. It looks like money did move in to XLY. That's really interesting. That's a discretionary is, am I clicking on the wrong thing? What's going on here? XLY. Oh, well, XLY did have a big move upwards, 1.45%. So, okay. Hitting it, we're just a huge movement upwards into resistance. That's really interesting. Let's see what's in the XLY that was causing that, because that's really unexpected. But as we can see here, most sectors went down. The only ones that are up are SPY, it was really flat. Dow Jones, which is flat, 0.06%. The defense sector, that's only TA, yeah, only up 0.25%. Really also just chopping sideways below the MA50, by the way, which is kind of dangerous. And then really the only sector that made a significant move was XLY, which is really interesting. At least the only move to the upside. To the downside, we do have some sectors that really went down. So home builders, utilities, financials, energies. It looks, I don't know. The data is not perfect. It's not, yeah, the data in StockFetcher today is not super reliable. The overall direction is correct. The magnitude is not correct. So it's throwing me off a little bit. I'm having to verify everything. Down 1% in energies. UF HBRT. Retail down 0.33%. Utilities down 0.42%, but still looking sideways. And then financials down 0.63%. Again, below the MA50 and right at the MA90, but of course these are all consolidating right here, so it's really just sideways movement. So XLY seems to be the anomaly today. And I wonder if there was some earnings that I missed that is doing this. So let's dig into that a little bit. I haven't updated those holdings for a while, so I might have to. Okay, well, Whirlpool and Tesla and Amazon and cruise lines. Okay, let's look at CCL. CCL riding high from its earnings yesterday, and all the other cruise lines and CLH, RCL. We had a nice recovery in one of our positions from RCL. Remember, we got hit by that downgrade by that BofA analyst, and I said, don't worry about it. It's only going to have a couple of days effect. And we started to recover just a couple of days after. And then with the CCL earnings, this would have been in profit, but we closed out because we had a Friday expiration. Technically, we could have just hung on to it because we did have intrinsic value in that. That was done more conservatively. So when we bought it in the money, and this would definitely be profitable right now, but that's hindsight. So we had RCL and then Whirlpool and then Tesla and Amazon. So let's look at Amazon. Amazon doing very, very well. I actually had an alert for myself to go into Amazon if it crossed 188.35, and I completely missed it. I was busy doing something else, unfortunately, and that would have been right here. So as it crossed this level right here, that was a nice surge in Amazon. We might be able to catch it on a pullback. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we miss this. It's just a nice one-day move, but we can catch it on a pullback. And then Whirlpool, what was the other one? Tesla. Tesla, nice movement here, 4.81%. But the really big one today was Whirlpool. Huge gap up, traded way back down, but then rejected and way back. This is very bullish. It's a gap bullish, and it's not even not earnings related. So let's see. Mergers and acquisitions. Not finding a lot of news here. Buzz after BMO upgrades to outperform. Really? A single bank, which is Bank of Montreal, it's not even a major investment bank, upgrades it and they jump 14.6%. That's really surprising. I wonder if there's something else here. Let me check Benzinga real fast. Okay, rumor that some portfolio is trying to acquire it. Okay. Okay, so it's just a piece of news. And unless that rumor turns out to be true, and there is a price level set for Whirlpool, then we would expect this to resume trend. But this is something I wouldn't touch because I have no way of, I don't have insider information. I have no way knowing if they're actually going to get acquired. If they do get acquired, this price could stick for a while. But otherwise, we would expect that to come back down. In any case, the reason why we're looking at this, why we even care, is because XLY had a really unusual move today against all the other sectors. And what we're saying is, okay, it's anomalous. It's this one thing it's not like money just went into discretionary and that people are, oh, let's take some risk and put on some risk in a growth sector. Nope. Tesla happened to go up a little bit. Amazon happened to go up a little bit, 3 to 4%. Not insignificant, but not huge. Not nearly enough to make this bar right here. But that Whirlpool is just anomalous. So basically what we're saying is, okay, we found why XLY moved, and that reason is not good enough for us to have confidence in this sector, in this single day move in this sector. It is not a trend. It is just a news item. Okay. And so if I ignore that and just say, okay, well, what if we just say, okay, yeah, Amazon did move, Tesla did move. Let's just consider that it moved up a little bit, not this huge amount. So it'd be more in line with the rest of these sectors over here. So everything looks flat. Money did not move, period. It's not like we cycle. Yeah, we did cycles out of some of these, but did it get poured back in? Did it leave the markets? Not really. It looks like it probably just went into cash and we're just holding. And that reaffirms the viewpoint and the opinion that, hey, we're just chopping sideways. We're going to be a little bit cautious because of all of the risk factors that we discussed this morning. We have some catalysts coming up tomorrow morning and on Friday that, hey, if it doesn't really go our way, then this market could really pull back to the EMA 20, to the MA 50. That's the potential that we're seeing right now. We're not really seeing a potential for further than that as of yet, but we just want to be prepared. We want to be safer than riskier. And that's what Wall Street is saying also. We want to be, the institutions are saying, let's play it safe. There's no real reason for us to be in this market. We're only traded 33 million shares on 54 million average. So unless we have to trade, we're not going to trade. We're just going to sit and wait. And so that's the attitude that we're going to adopt in our portfolios. Just sit on our positions as long as they're well balanced in a neutral way and maybe put on a hedge. And that's exactly where we are in our portfolios right now. So no viewpoint change, no action really that we need to take. We're just going to sit and watch and see how that GDP report comes out tomorrow. And then let's see if we got any further movement in Micron. Yeah, we're settling near that bottom, closer to the bottom of this trading range. So this is probably going to stick. All of the excitement should have passed by now, unless there is a investor call, which generally happens half an hour, so in about 1 minute. Okay, but I'm not going to stick around and wait for that. We'll just see what happened tomorrow morning when we look at the GDP report as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning.